Hello YouTube. I've said in the past that I believe diet to be highly overrated for muscle building, and I still stand by this statement, because programming and training is of course much more important. This I will expand on in a video dedicated to the topic because I believe it's very interesting, but it does not mean that I think diet is completely useless. If anything, I think that it's highly underrated in other aspects of life, especially sustainability and living a long and healthy existence. And so today I wanted to share with you some tips and ideas I have and I try to apply to my own diet in order to save the planet. Now, I'm not using that term and that formula in the sense that most people do, meaning that usually when someone tells you to save the planet, it means that you're being asked to sacrifice things that you love or completely change the way you eat, because apparently what you eat makes you a bad person and you're evil, so you have to just submit and change. That's not what this video is about at all. I'm not even going to try and get you to stop eating certain things or to switch to a different diet. This is not a video about you going vegan or going vegetarian, because I don't really care about that. I think that it's not something that should be focused on when we discuss sustainable diets and diets that can help improve the planet. It's a portion of it, but too many people spend too much energy on that without realizing that there are other factors that are just as important, if not more, and that everyone can apply across the board. When talking about diet, too many people are going to be tribalistic about it. They're going to make it about their camp versus the opposite camp. To me, we're all in the same camp. We're all human, and we should all strive towards a better way of living. And that way of living is not vegan, it's not meat eating, it's not pescatarian or whatever. It's just thinking with your brain and applying strategies that make sense regardless of your preferences or ideologies. So, regardless of what you eat, regardless of your belief, you will be able to resonate with this video. When we talk about the environment, there's two ways to think about it in reality. There's the one that I just described, the global one, where you look at the planet as a whole and the environment as that, in a sense, representation of the whole and the place we all live and the place we need to protect. To me, it's a little bit difficult for humans to project themselves with that example because it's too broad. If I tell you save the planet as this global astral creature, it's almost impossible to feel empathy or even to feel concerned. Many people have to be told that they have to feel concerned because before you tell them, they don't. And that is only natural. We have a tough time caring about other things than ourselves or the people around us. That is perfectly natural. It's our subjectivity. So today, what we're going to focus on saving with our diet is going to be the environment around us. So ourselves, of course, our friends, our family, and our community. And we're going to stop that. When it comes to countries or even, again, planet Earth as a whole, one, I don't think it needs saving. And two, we don't have the power to make a big change on that level. We need to start with small scopes and small objectives before we can start discussing massive shifts like this. Too many people try to go directly to the big shifts, like forcing everyone to stop eating a certain product, for example, and that simply doesn't work because they're missing step number one. Well, these are the steps that I consider to be step number one, that are easy to implement and that can make a direct difference on the planet as a whole if everyone did it. Number one, buy local. Try to buy as much of your products from people who you know within your community that are within reach, meaning that if you're going to buy some apples, try to find someone where you live who sells apples. You don't need to get them from a different country. The problem is that too many people don't even look at where the food comes from. They don't care. You should care, not just for you, but also for the people around you, because food that is sourced locally tends to be fresh, and it tends to be higher quality for a lower price. You also reduce the carbon footprint of whichever company is going to get you the food because it's right next to you. An apple that had to travel across the globe to reach you in your supermarket is, yes, maybe even cheaper, but it certainly isn't cheaper in a global sense. It costs a lot to this planet. So, as much as you can, try to buy local. It's also going to help you appreciate the people around you more. You might make connections and build friendships. For example, for me, I know that I now have connections with people who sell vegetables that if I only bought blindly, I would have never made. And these can turn into, again, full-on connections with people that make up the environment around you. So that's very important. You will patronize small businesses, and this is something that many people don't do out of laziness, because it's more convenient to just go to Walmart or to a big supermarket and get all your food there. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it's beneficial, even financially, to just go to Costco and buy things in bulk. But not everything needs to be bought in bulk. Whenever you can, buy local, buy from those small businesses that absolutely need your support, because keep in mind that if they disappear, you're going to be left with only the big corporations, and then they can run whatever bullshit they want because they don't have any competition. It's not good for you, and it's not good for business and the free market in general. You also want to buy seasonal, so you want to buy things that are in season. For the example of the apple, apples tend to be in season year-round, and most vegetables and fruits also do. Why? Because we get them from across the globe, and all 4 seasons are represented at all times on planet Earth. Yet, it's not a good thing that this has become a reality, because these foods have a cost. They travel a lot, they cost a lot of money to transport from one place to the other, and that could be avoided if you simply ate seasonal. And this would also be good for you, because unlike what you might think, it would bring some diversity into your diet. Many people who eat international, in a sense, always eat the same thing because it's always available. Once you start looking at the vegetables, for example, that are available for you in winter, you're going to make discoveries, right? Just like with the small businesses, you're going to expand your field of vision. You're going to start looking at foods you've never touched before. And you might discover new favorites. You might discover foods that are simply never really hyped up or mainstream that you have a strong appetence for, but that's only if you buy seasonal. On top of that, it's going to bring you closer to your roots, because you'll have to do some research about the climate, about the culture of the place where you live. And that is, to me, also crucial, because your food, and especially vegetables and fruits, come from the ground. There's a reason why. There's a symbolic here. It's the literal fruits of the earth, all right? All of the energy and the vital minerals of the earth that are being transferred into a fruit or vegetable for you to eat. So, if you pay attention, you will be able to find out that there are very interesting options available for you. Also, it's cheaper across the board to buy seasonal. And if you apply these 2 things, most likely, most of the food you will consume is going to be whole food, so nothing processed. Now, we all eat processed foods. If you eat pasta, if you eat rice, if you eat bread, that's processed. I want you to reduce that as much as possible, meaning that, for example, if you buy processed bread, try to buy bread from a mill. Try to buy bread that is not full of sugar, that hasn't been refined, etc., etc. All of these doesn't stop the fact that the bread is a processed food, but the less processed step there is in the recipe, the better off you are. And that is especially true for animal products. Animal products you buy within processed foods tend to be absolutely horrendous for you and this planet. Make sure that you get them from the source. You want a piece of steak? Find someone who has cattle and has a butcher connected to them and buy it directly from them. Don't buy them in the form of meatballs with whatever bullshit sauce and sodium added to it. You are always going to be better off straight buying whole foods and cooking it yourself. Keep in mind that when you cook, you process the food, but at least you know what you put in it. So you're in control. And unlike what a lot of people would like you to believe, whole foods are cheaper than processed foods. I am tired of people, especially fat people, trying to justify their shitty diets by saying that it's cheaper. That is simply not true. Whole foods, fresh foods, and even organic food is always cheaper than buying some pasta box somewhere, always. It's just that it takes time to cook and you have to be smart about where you buy it. Of course, if you go to Trader Joe and you buy fucking pineapples, yes, it's $8 because you're buying pineapples in the middle of winter. So of course you could have had many more boxes of raviolis instead. But if you bought some cabbage, for example, a head of cabbage is 28 cents. And with one head of cabbage, you can make enough food for 2 days. And there you are, just like that, the whole foods win. You just have to actually use your brain and not be an actual malevolent liar, like a lot of these people, to justify the destruction of your body and of this planet. To continue, I also would want you, if possible, to not overconsume. We live in a supra-consumerist society where most people eat way too much. They eat garbage on top of that, and what they don't eat, they throw away. To me, in terms of people who lift, we have a closer connection to healthy bodies and also a healthier lifestyle. We should also demonstrate that through our diets. So, make sure you don't stock up on non-perishables. The only thing you can stock up on is the thing that's not going to go bad. For the rest, make conscious choices to buy what you're going to eat, to make sure you never throw it away. That is very important. I don't know what you guys think or how you feel about wasting food. To me, it's a big pet peeve. It breaks my heart when I have to throw food away. So I make sure I plan so that it never actually happens, and that is a good way. You should also shop full. Of course, that is something I've preached in the past. When you go to the grocery store, have a meal beforehand. That way your animal instincts don't force you to actually stock up on things you won't eat. I think I read a study recently that in France, for example, 30% of every single product bought by a couple or by a single person was thrown into the garbage. So 30% of the fridge at the end of the week went bad and had to be thrown. That is something that needs to be reduced at all cost. Food waste is a bigger problem on Earth than any other dietary related problem by large. It is what creates the most pollution as well, because these foods need to go somewhere. They don't just dissipate into the heavens. So if no one eats them, well, they just rot away. That is terrible. Make sure you don't actually contribute to that. And that is going to take having a plan. Know what you're going to buy and know what you need. If you show up to the grocery store without a grocery list, most likely you will overbuy. Many people think it's the opposite. They think you're going to show up and just get the essentials. That's not true. It's the reason, by the way, why those shops and usually those supermarkets play music. If you've ever wondered, it's one, to keep you in, yes, because it's lively in a sense, but it's also to distract you so that you don't pay attention to what you actually need and you're so captivated by the music that your instincts take over. It's also, by the way, the reason why they never play classical music. They play pop music because it turns your brain off. So if you have a list in your hand, that's not going to happen to you. You're going to be able to be in and out quick. It's also what they don't want. If you've ever wondered why shops like IKEA make that labyrinth of a shop, or why certain shops seem to be so cumbersome in terms of going from one place to the other, it's because it's on purpose. They want to keep you in as long as possible. Because every second they have you in the store is a second you can see a product that you're going to impulse buy. If you have a plan and you know which store you're going to go to, especially if it's a small store, and you have, for example, an order waiting for you, that's not going to happen. You're going to be in and out. That is a strategy that is going to save you money and make sure you don't waste food. And if we're going to talk about planning, you should also plan the food that you're going to need for the week, but more than that, that you're going to cook for the week, because that reduces the impulse as well. If you have a plan, anything you add and you impulse buy is going to be something that is going to be added to the plan. So it's going to take extra space, and if you have a tight schedule, it's not going to fit. So it's going to discourage you from actually buying all of that sugary bullshit that we all know we have a tendency to buy when we go to big stores. And as you can tell, this is also a strategy that doesn't really apply to small stores, because small stores tend to be more specialized, which also makes them better. I vividly remember when I was a kid with my grandparents, we would go from the fisherman to the butcher to the store that only sold cereals, etc., etc. It was longer, but it also ensured that we only bought the essentials. Nowadays, yes, you save time on your trip, but you also waste a lot of money on products you don't need because there's an overabundance. Humans are not made to face that amount of food. It makes us go insane when you see all of the dairy, all of the animal products, all of the sugar, all there in one place. It does something to your brain, and that is something that they are highly aware of. To go back into the psychology of things, certain pairings in supermarkets that look random, like for example, sugar right next to, I don't know, bread, is on purpose. They pair products that they know trigger one another in your brain. If you go to your local supermarket, you will notice that the coffee tends to be in the same aisle or a similar aisle to sugary products because they light up similar areas of the brain. These are tricks that once you understand, you can avoid. So plan as much as possible. And reduce takeouts as well. We're talking about grocery shopping right now. I would expect most of you to grocery shop. I hope you don't order takeouts all the time. I know people in France who eat takeouts every single day. That is terrible. It adds to pollution because there's a guy that needs to actually drive to you. It is 5 times more expensive than making the food yourself. The food tends to be not the best for your health. And it also, in a sense, deresponsabilizes you because you don't have to cook. And the problem is that I know many men who are kept in a state of infancy because they had their mom to cook for them for their entire life. And then when they move to their own place, they just order takeout. So they never actually have to learn how to cook for themselves. Problem is, as I said, that food is very expensive. And it's not the best for health. If you know any person who owns a restaurant and you look at the way they cook, they put a shit ton of butter in their food. They put a shit ton of sugar, of sodium. Why? They don't care about your health. It's none of their concern. What they care about is the food needs to be good so that you come back. It's the same for big food companies. They're not concerned with you living a long life, a long healthy life. They're concerned with emptying your wallet. So, keep in mind that this is these people's plan. It's fine to go to a restaurant once in a while, but the vast majority of the food you eat should be whole foods cooked by you. These two hand in hand. And if you just do that, you're going to be much healthier. This is for the purchasing of the food and the preparing of the food aspect. Now we can talk about the actual eating of the food. I believe that making meals into a ritual is very important because it's something that has sort of disappeared in this modern world. Many people eat when they walk, when many people eat in front of the computer. And I know that this resonates with a lot of you guys, teenagers, that instead of eating with your family, you actually eat with, for example, your friends on Discord or even by yourself in front of the laptop. That is no good. You need to bring back the ritualistic aspect of meals because a meal is a social event. It is extremely good for your mental health to eat with other people. So try to do it as much as you can. This also is going to help you because I have found that people who have meals with their families, loved ones, or friends tend to have less eating disorders overall. Eating disorders tend to be lonely diseases, lonely illnesses, and they can be treated by community, right? Again, we go back to the idea of being connected to people around you. Connections tend to heal us, so try to be as connected as you can. And if you're not connected and you're by yourself, try to strive for a future when you can be connected. Find local cooking classes. Find places where you're going to be able to finally go back to what food truly is. Because food is one. Nutrients, yes, it's in a sense just eating to survive, but it's so much more than that. Even, I was going to say we're more than animals because at least we have that. Even in animals, eating is a social event. So try to go back to that root as much as you can. And make sure also that you eat what you like. Bodybuilding for too long has been telling people that there are certain foods that everyone needs to eat and that some foods are bad. That is simply not true. Some foods are not the best, I've already described which, but when it comes to your diet, you can be very flexible, and you can always find things that you love if you apply what I already told you. If you have options, you will find that your appetite for food is wider than you think, because there's many foods you've never tried. So try as much stuff as possible, and you will have a diet where you always eat what you like. For me, I can't remember the last time I ate something I didn't like, because I prepare everything and I cook everything, and I know what my preferences are because I've tried pretty much everything. And so, if you actually follow these advices, you will actually help saving the planet, because the benefits of all of these are you're going to spend less money, and that can be from a few $100s to maybe even $1,000 a year if you apply what I said to a T. There's going to be less waste, so that's also money saved, but more importantly, spiritually, you're not going to waste resources, and that's very important. You'll have a better relationship with food in this day and age. Many people have poor relationships with food and therefore with themselves. That can also correct that. And to finish up, you will have more vitamins and minerals in your diet, because even though none of these advices told you to eat more vegetables or to switch your diet, to not eat that, it's still going to lead you by default to making smarter choices, because the ones that are bad for you and the planet will be eliminated by default, because they will not be able to be actually fulfilled or pursued with the restrictions that you're going to follow if you actually apply everything I said in this video. And with that, I'm going to leave you for the day. I hope this was informative. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a good day.